You know grip training is important for Jiu-Jitsu, but you're still not doing it. So I have 7 of my favorite grip exercises that will give you unbreakable hands in just 30 days. Obviously don't do this for just 30 days. Keep doing it forever. But first, do you even need to train your grip directly? If we look at the very small amount of research we have in grip training or grip and Jiu-Jitsu, we see that when you compare elite Jiu-Jitsu athletes, now bear in mind, when we talk about elite versus non-elite Jiu-Jitsu athletes in the research, we're literally just talking belt levels. Because the research is essentially not there, it's all we really have to go from. So we see that elite Jiu-Jitsu athletes, they had a graduation from purple to black belt with 4+ years of experience, and novice, who went from white to blue belt and have less than 4 years experience, the elite Jiu-Jitsu athletes had far greater hand grip strength. Now, we can't really take much from this, as you can probably deduce from this, they've spent more time in the sport and therefore they've had more time to essentially train their grip within the sport itself, hence why they have stronger grips. But another important consideration around grip is during competition. So we see that Jiu-Jitsu athletes that were competing at the European IBJJF competition showed a 10% decrease in maximal grip strength after one competitive match. And now I would assume this would continue to decrease as you go further along in the competition day. Therefore, it is probably important to be able to train your grip to either have greater maximal grip strength so that decrease isn't as negative throughout the training day, and to also have better grip endurance to be able to sustain long grip holds and again, be able to sustain grips throughout an entire competition day. Now, before I dive into my top 7 Jiu-Jitsu grip exercises, you must know that there are 6 different types of grip. Yes, I know, it just sounds really simple, kind of just grabbing things with your hands, but there are different types of grips to train, and which I'll touch on a bit later as well. And in my experience, a lot of them don't really transfer over, or at least the task you're doing doesn't often transfer over to another task. Obviously, there are some caveats within that, but let me run through some of these. So the first one is the crimp grip. Now, crimp, just think of it, it's almost like finger grip. If you think of just grabbing the sleeves in gi jiu-jitsu, that would be a crimp grip, and a really good example of it. It's basically finger strength, and it's mainly finger strength of the furthest 2 joints in your fingers like this. You then have clamp grip, which is kind of a progression on from crimp grip. It's still finger strength, but you're clamping between your fingers and essentially your palm. So you're involving the bigger knuckles during that grip. Clamp grip isn't very common among many sports, but it's just another way where if you wanted to train your finger strength, it's another way you can do that. You then have pinch grip. So think of pinching like lobsters. You're gonna have the thumb and the fingers involved. This is more of a thumb exercise than a finger exercise. I would say it's more thumb dominant. And if you pinch like plates together, you will have your meat of your thumb here absolutely feel like it's falling off the bone. We then have support grip, which is probably the most common gripping exercise, the one you're gonna use most in jiu-jitsu. For example, grabbing a wrist and the hands don't move, pull-ups, deadlifts, etc. It's all part of the support grip network. We then have crushing grip, which is honestly pretty much like support grip, but essentially your hand is moving. So this is your crushing grip, whereas holding it in place against something is a support grip. And then finally, we have monkey grip, which is probably the one that's least talked about, which is an open hand grip. It is mainly probably mostly trainers in strongman, because if you have really big sandbags or kegs or barrels, you can't connect your hands together to carry it. You have to hold it against you like this. Sometimes you can be in positions like that in jiu-jitsu too. It's just good to have good open hand strength just in case as well. So do you need to train all 6 of these grip types for jiu-jitsu? Probably not, but it's just good to know that there's more than one type, and you shouldn't just do, say, one exercise for your grip, because there are different types of grip to go through. So let me run through my favorite, or my top 7 grip exercises for jiu-jitsu in no particular order. The first one, the towel pull-up and hang. This is probably one of my favorite grip exercises because it doesn't take any real equipment except some hand towels. Make sure you don't use one hand towel. So you don't want to just have one towel over and hold both ends. You're at more risk of ripping it. Just have 2 towels each hand. Ideally, you want thicker towels because they're not going to rip, and it's going to be more challenging on your grip as well, especially when you do them weighted. Now, you can replace your regular pull-ups with towel pull-ups if your grip is strong enough. For example, I know I can do pretty similar reps between towel pull-ups and just regular pull-ups, so substituting it is just fine for me. If you have a big discrepancy, for example, you don't only do 1 or 2 towel pull-ups, but you can do 5, 10 regular pull-ups, then you might want to do your regular pull-ups first and then finish with some kind of towel hang or maybe some towel pull-ups at the end of the session. Typically, I like to do bodyweight reps for essentially close to max reps, or I like to do them weighted for around 5 to 6 reps. Pretty similar to my normal pull-up set and rep scheme. If you're doing hangs, you can either hang at the end of a set. For example, say you're doing bodyweight reps and you do 8 reps, and you can just hang in the bottom position or the top position for another 10 seconds to improve your grip strength. You can also just do straight dead hangs for say 30 seconds on them, or you can do it with weight. The second exercise is the fat barbell curl. Now this is direct arm work. And I think direct arm work is really slept on when we're talking about grip training. And the fat barbell curl is probably the best of all of them for training your grip. Now, if you don't have a fat bar, you can use fat grips. They're about 20 or 30 bucks. You put them on the bar, and now you have I believe it's a 1.5 or 2 inch diameter bar. And they have even bigger sizes too. But just the blue ones, I think it's 2 inch diameter, is perfectly fine. And that is going to absolutely torch your hands and your forearms as you do these curls. Now, typically I like to do my fat curls relatively heavy. I don't like to do higher reps, say quote unquote pump sets with these. These I like to really take to a more intense level, typically around 6 to 10 reps. 8 reps is what I usually go for, but 6 is sometimes I go there too. Now, if you do have issues with say elbows and wrists doing a straight bar curl, you can put the fat grips on dumbbells or an easy bar, and that can usually solve the problem. Or you can do it with dumbbells and do it say with a hammer grip with the palms neutral. That can often help too, and that will also torch your grip. My third option again is another fat bar variation. It's the fat barbell deadlift. Now, I also wanted to put in the fat barbell power clean, but that might be a little too advanced for some people who don't have any weightlifting background, because that is easily one of my favorites, just because it's novel and fun, and it's really difficult to hold on that bar as you clean the weight to your shoulders. But an easier variation, and one you can go heavier on, is the fat barbell deadlift. Typically, I like to work up into heavy singles with this one. So I don't like doing reps. I want to do the heaviest weight possible that my grip can handle. Because the weight's going to be much lower than you would when you do regular deadlifts, you're not going to torch your hammies and glutes and back, etc. doing this. Now, you're not going to replace, say, if you're doing deadlifts or squats, you're not going to replace those with this exercise, but you can do this, for example, if you are already doing deadlifts as your main lift, you can do this afterwards as just working up to a heavy single with the fat bar or fat grips, or you can do the same near the end of the session or after remaining deadlifts or whatever you're doing there. It can fit in after your main, say, pulling work. Fourth exercise, the plate pinch. I talked about this near the beginning when I talked about pinch grip. It's pretty much the only real way to train pinch grip without other specialized training equipment, and it just works really well. Now, importantly, you want to use metal plates with smooth outsides, because you want to essentially pair them together so you only have the smooth outside of the plates showing and you're holding that grip. Now, you can do 1 hand plate pinches or you can do 2 hand plate pinches. Either or is fine. Obviously, with 2 hand plate pinches, you're going to be able to go much, much heavier. Typically with these, I like to do 20 to 30 second holds. You will feel like this little drumstick on your hand here, you will feel like those are almost crampy. It is honestly probably one of the worst feelings in terms of muscle pumps that I've experienced, and you'll probably find that out too if you do this. But it's a good one if you wanted to really train that thumb strength. My fifth exercise, one I've talked about before, the croc row. This is an absolute beast of a back exercise, and when you do it with no straps, it becomes an absolute beast of a grip exercise too. It's essentially a high rep dumbbell row done with some body English, and you're doing with some momentum of body English because you're doing it so heavy that you can't do it strict. That's the idea of the croc row. And because you're doing it so heavy that you can't do it strict, it also means you're having to hold a very heavy load in your hand. So essentially you get a double up, you get your back work done, plus you get your grip work done in the one exercise. You don't need to do extra grip work at the end of the session, making it a very versatile lift. Now, typically you're doing 20 reps with this. I mean, you can go more. I don't really see much point in going more. Typically it's in the 15 to 20 range, and that's what I found work best. And you get that trade-off between heavier load and higher reps. The sixth exercise, back to our fat barbells, the fat barbell hold. This is a nice one too. Same thing, put the fat grips or have a fat bar, just put it on a rack. You're gonna pick it up and you're just gonna hold it in that top of the deadlift position essentially for 10 to 30 seconds or however long you want to do it. Typically I like shorter holds because I wanna do heavier, shorter stints versus longer, lighter stints. Other than that, there's nothing more to really say about that exercise. You're just holding a fat bar. The last one, we're gonna look at the monkey grip, and that is the sandbag monkey grip carry. Now, for this one, you need a sandbag big enough to be able to do it, but often if you have a sandbag that you can flip on its side and you can hold it long ways, that will allow you to get the monkey grip so you can't connect your hands. You'll feel your forearms absolutely blow up doing something like this. It's a really good exercise to train that open hand strength and that forearm strength. If you're in a case where someone's trying to break your grips and you're standing up and you're having to hold someone like this, now you can do it. Now there's a few things you might notice from my exercise choices. Firstly, there's not many that you would call quote unquote dedicated grip exercises. They're often combined with normal lifting. And in my experience, this is how you best increase maximal gripping strength as an athlete, because there's no point going through down the road of specialized gripping equipment if you're not a grip. I mean, there are grip strength athletes that do essentially just train grip. You don't need to go that far. Secondly, you might be wondering, what about traditional gripping tools like, hand grippers? I've still got hand grippers in the garage. I love them. In my experience though, the grip doesn't transfer well between tasks. And that is, most of your grips in Jiu-Jitsu are kind of that supporting grip, so you're just grabbing a wrist. Improving maximal crushing grip strength, in my experience and opinion, doesn't transfer that well. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but if you have limited time and there might be just better options. I would also argue, which kind of goes against what I just said there before, that a lot of the support grip work will transfer a little bit to that crushing grip strength anyway. And regarding the lack of that crimp or finger grip strength work out of these 7 exercises, if you train in the gi a lot, you're getting a lot of this work already. And if you're doing a lot of gi work, your fingers kind of get wrecked, especially when you're holding lapels and sleeves. You could add more work if you think it is a problem in your jiu-jitsu, but most of the time you probably don't need to, and you probably don't want to overwork those fingers, especially if you're doing a lot of gi jiu-jitsu. Now, if you want to see how you can put a full body program together for jiu-jitsu, make sure you check out this video next, and it will detail 3 full body templates you can take and use right now.